SonicState.com.
So my name is Greg Undo. I'm with Steinberg. We're at AES 2006 in San Francisco, and we're going to show you a brand new Cubase 4. Now, one of the things that we wanted to do with Cubase 4 was really focus on workflow. We wanted to make sure that you could work and spend long hours looking at the screen without eye fatigue. So one of the things we want to do was to really emphasize the active versus inactive tracks in the project. So as I see, if I come over and click, I can see exactly what's active and inactive, and that carries over into my mixer as well. So if I want to come here, we can customize different elements. So we have a lot of parameters in our inspector. So I can do my channels, my surround panner, sends. Now if I just simply right click here, I can now just simply come over here and do setup, and I can now bring and adjust all the parameters. So if I wanted to have my audio notepad at the bottom, I could just simply move that directly down. Or if I wanted to see my audio sends, my studio sends, I can just simply move that over so I don't see it. Or I can pick and choose what's active, and I can store presets so I could have one for mixing versus one for tracking. Now if I also wanted to come over here, we're going to also be able to look with our channel strips for our mixer. So again, as soon as we have our inserts dropped in, we can now just simply come over here and again see exactly what's active versus inactive. Now one of the things we can do now is drag and drop your inserts to change the orders. A brand new Studio EQ, which is one of 33 new plugins for Cubase 4, allows us to have very, very tight control over our different parameters. So if I wanted to adjust my Q, the frequency, as well as my gain or cut, I can just simply do that there. And again, I could call up any unified presets from a list, even from track presets. Now my view here can also be customized as well. So again, simply right click and go to my setup, and I could pick and choose what elements are visible and not. So if I wanted my fader to go all the way over to the left, I could just simply select that and say move up, and I could reposition the fader or move it down. So I can really configure it exactly for how I want. Now coming over here, one of the things that we want to do is we realize that everyone has a lot of new plugins. So we didn't want to necessarily overwhelm everyone with plugins, but we wanted to be able to use them more effectively. So if I come here, we're going to have 33 new plugins with a new unified interface. They're all 64-bit ready. We're waiting for the new operating systems to come in Microsoft Vista or Leopard, and we'll kind of turn on the switch and have the 64-bit engine. One of my new favorite plugins is one called the Envelope Shaper. We'll go ahead and solo the drums, and we'll drop this in as an insert. So if I want to come over here, we have the Envelope Shaper. Now we'll listen to our drums. So now if I wanted to change the actual shape of the drums, I want them very tight, I could do that, or if I want them very long, I can kind of get that John Bonham sound that so often sought. If I want to come over here and have more length, or if I wanted to adjust the attack, or have very minimal attack as well. So very easy to make huge, drastic improvements in the sound quality of your drums. Now, as we do this, every plugin is going to have a unified interface for presets. This is part of the VST3 specification. So now I click there, and I could actually just simply scroll through all my presets as the tracks actually play in time. So just using my arrow keys up and down, and I could audition all my presets as it plays. Now, one of my other favorite new things is the ability of being able to manage everything with our media, because realize that if we have 33 new plugins, each with like maybe 20 to 100 different presets, dealing with all the presets gets to be an issue, and where are the presets stored? So if I come over here, I could actually open up my media bay, and we'll just come over here. Now I can see every audio file that's on my system. So if I'm looking for audio files that are in my hard disk in my projects folder, I can now do this. Or if I wanted to scan for every video file in my system, I can now just simply go through every single video file that's on my system. I could look for track presets, my Nuendo project, Cubase project files, as well as sounds. So everything can be managed in one central location. If I'm working often with loops, I can come over here to the loop browser. And now we're able to come over here and audition loops in real time. I can audition them in a project tempo, have it automatically play, and just simply play any of my Rex files, ACID files, and listen to it in a project tempo. If I wanted to insert it, I could just simply one mouse click, and I could just say I want to insert that into the cursor or where the timestamp is, and now I have my loop automatically inserted into the project. Now, one of my other favorite things is going to be the control room section. One of the things that's really made it difficult for typical recording studios based around a computer and working is actual communication. So we want to come over here. We want to be able to go to our VST connections. And I set up my studio tab. So now I can hook up using the available inputs in my audio interface, I can hook up a talkback microphone, additional inputs, so I want to have like my iPod or a DVD player. I could also have my speakers, so if I have my 5.1, my stereo or mono speakers, I can have these as well as my headphone mixes. So now if I come over here, I can open up my control room mixer, and as we do this, I'll slide this over to our main screen, and now I can switch between my different monitors. I could have my mono stereo compatibility. If I'm in my surround, I could just listen to what's going on in my front speakers. I could just listen to what's in my rear speakers. I could actually flip my rear speakers to my front if I'm doing critical edits. I have my talkback for communications, my dim level I could set as well. And now I could also have my 4 independent headphone mixes here. So if I wanted to come over here to a track, I can say, okay, if I wanted to come to the bass track here, and the drummer needed to hear more of the bass track, I can now just simply come right here and activate the drummer's headphone mix and send more bass to the drum booth. So that way I can set up 4 independent headphone mixes, which exceeds a lot of actual consoles. Now, one of my favorite things we can do is to work with track presets. So again, managing thousands and thousands of presets from various instruments. Part of the VST3 specification is the ability to come over here. Let's say I have a guitar part and I have a dry signal, and as we play, it's not the most exciting guitar sound. Now, if I wanted kind of a rock guitar, I could just simply come over here and say, I want to apply the track preset. And now I could do everything by category. So I could look at guitar, electric guitar, I want to have a rock setting. And now I could just simply come over here and just load up. And now all of my plugins have been loaded with my EQ. So if I want to have a singing solo guitar, I can just load that up right there. So now I can come over here. Now, without even having to open up 3 individual plugins, if I wanted to even change the presets on just a guitar amp, I could do that just that easily as well. So come over here, I wanted that sound, okay, that's great. Now if I even want to now come over and I can now create a track preset based on this. So if I want to say this is going to be more for, if I want to come over here for guitar and plucked instruments, and this could be a processed sound. So I can say this is going to be distorted, electric, bright, process, and I can put my own user tags. And this is going to be set up for good for rock and metal music. And I can now come over here, simply type in a name and save it, and I can have access to that preset for any other project at any time. So very, very easy and fast to use. So and again, if we go back to our sound, so instead of having to go out and buy a dedicated guitar amp software package, I can now just simply use the great ones that are included, and we'll see Signature Series presets coming from many professional musicians and great guitar players. Now we could also get to the point where if I wanted to work with new instruments, we can come right over here and we're going to have a whole new instrument track. So as we go to instruments, now as I open up one of the new instruments or any instrument, I'll get asked whether I want to open up and create a MIDI track that's automatically assigned to it. Now again, we're going to have the same paradigm of being able to centrally manage your presets. So I can say, now I want to find an organ sound, or I want to find a electric piano. So I go to keyboard to electric piano, and now I can scroll through and display all my electric piano sounds right here, and I can audition each sound. Now what's great about this is not only these are actually going to be based on the Yamaha ROM from the original Motif keyboard, so we're seeing the synergy of technology between Steinberg and Yamaha. Some of the other instruments that we have is the ability of coming over here, we're going to have some great synths. So if I want to like a very monster analog synthesizer, we're going to have our Prologue. We can do that. I also have Mystic and Spectrum, which will actually allow me to come over here and do kind of physical modeling and spectrum synthesis as well. Now, if we have an instrument that has a lot of outputs, such as Steinberg's Hallion, as we do this, I could actually come over here to my outputs and I could dynamically allocate how many outputs are active. So if I just want one stereo output, I can have up to 256 outputs in Hallion. If I don't need to see all those at one time, I can now just simply come over here and activate the outputs that I need to see and need to have available at any time. Now one of the great things is the ability of once I have an instrument track, I could just add an instrument track, and let's say I'm looking for a synth bass sound. I really don't care where it comes from, but what I can do is come over here, and just like we see kind of like, you know, almost in iTunes, I come over and say I want a bass, I want my synth bass, and if it's coming from my Hallion 1, it's coming from wherever, Prologue, Monologue, I could just simply come right over here and see all my individual patches, so all my bass synth patches. So this way I can see if I just want to find a right bass synth sound, I don't really care where it's coming from. There's all my Howling 1. Now you can see all of them from Spectre, from Monologue, Prologue, it doesn't matter. So everything can be centrally organized. So again, we want to be able to find the sounds that we have, so we don't want to overwhelm with actual sounds. So whether you want to have better hardware integration using the control room, you want to have better dynamic allocation of plugins, you want to have better plugins, so 33 new plugins, 4 new instruments that are dedicated, but the ability to find everything quickly, easily with fewer mouse clicks is going to make Cubase 4 a better user experience for everyone. And again, native for the Intel Mac, as well as Universal Binary Mac, specifically written for it, as well as the AMD and Intel chips on PC. So Cubase 4 is a great program to be using.
SonicState.com